What's going on? All right, we are live and I got something real good for you today. Let me make sure everybody's live. All right, I'm going to talk about what I have personally done myself. This is my own experience and give you a secret to being able to build your own bank. And when I say that, I'm not just saying that um out of some hype theory or something. This is legit. I'm going to take you through my practices of what I've done to build my own bank, and this is pretty much what most wealthy people do. It is another asset, and as I'm always telling you, you have to invest in assets, right? So I'm going to help you out with that. Some of you all may have heard of this before, and many of you probably haven't. But I'm telling you, you can literally build your own bank. Okay. And wealthy people have been doing this for decades. And sometimes I feel like not enough people are talking about it and educating others on it. Um, and this is really good for because honestly, most people really depend on big banks for loans, for credit, for emergencies. But those who continue to build wealth create, again, as I always say, assets that they can borrow against. Okay. And that's what I want to talk about, because you can build a bank that you actually get to borrow against it. Okay. Um, and I have done that myself. Okay. And I'm going to tell you how to do it and how not to do it, because I actually did it the wrong way years ago. And it benefited me some to have this particular structure that I had. And I'm going to talk about it in great detail. Um, but at the end of the day, I'm going to show you exactly what I did wrong so that you don't do this the same thing. Okay. You don't have to be rich to do this, by the way. You can set this up for yourself, for your kid, your children, your nieces, nephews, whoever. And you can start building generational wealth. I'm going to show you exactly how. And like I said, this may be the first time that you've ever heard of this, but it's very easy to do. And again, it's what a lot of businessmen and businesswomen do and wealthy people do. All right. So I'm going to, in this video, I'm going to break it all down, what this strategy is, how it works, and why it is one of the most powerful secrets that wealthy people use to stay in control of their money. Like I said, I'll also show or share with you my own mistakes in this so that you don't end up structuring it in the wrong way like I did in the beginning. All right, so let's jump in. Listen, please like the video. It costs you nothing. Like, let's just take a silence right now for 5 seconds. All right, in that 5 seconds, I hope you like the video. Okay. All right. Subscribe to the page also, and turn on your notifications, because I'll continue to do trainings. And I do want to say a disclaimer before I jump in. This is going to be really, really good. I promise you this is going to be so valuable. But I'm not your financial advisor. Honestly, most financial advisors that I know aren't even millionaires themselves. And if I was your advisor, I'd probably be handing you some kind of pie chart right now. But instead, I am handling or I'm handing over to you the strategies that the wealthy actually use. Okay. But I want to be clear and correct when I say this. This is for educational purposes only. This is not financial advice. Okay. All right. All right, let's dive in. Just looking at yes, the structure is very important. And one of the comments is, so glad I'm speaking about this. Yeah, and she must already know what I'm going to talk about, because like I said, this is a very brilliant way to handle your money. All right. And it's so easy. We just got to start thinking a little differently about our futures. It's time to get serious, y'all. All right. So what I'm going to talk about is, like I said, is building your own bank, and it's something called a cash value life insurance policy. Now, don't get tripped up when I say life insurance policy. Okay. Sometimes you do hear it called infinite banking. Okay. Don't let the insurance stuff scare you off. This is not about a basic life insurance policy. This is specifically designed as a whole life policy that builds cash value over time. Okay. So I'm going to break it down so that you can understand how to do this. And I hope that you do it. I mean, I hope that you feel like encouraged just from listening to these wealth building principles, and that you feel encouraged to just do something different with your life. Okay. Now, here is somebody says, sorry, I don't have any money. This is not about a bunch of money. Okay. Y'all gotta come on, y'all. Like within a year, don't tell me you don't spend $500 on food, concerts, movie tickets, hair, nails, makeup, shopping, shoes, going to theme parks. Don't ever say you don't have the money. Don't Wealthy people don't say what they don't have, okay? So I want to change that, for the person who just said that. If you feel like you don't have it in your possession, technically, just say I got to find a way to find it. You know what I mean? I got to figure out a way to get it. All right? You want to you want to focus on what you want, not what you don't have, because what you don't have is not what you want. You don't want to not have. Who wants to not have? We got to shift our mentality. All right? No, you haven't missed too much. We just getting started. All right. Now, sorry, I just had to say that for a moment because I don't want you guys speaking like that. I want you to focus on what the vision of your future looks like. And it does not look like lack, and it doesn't look like scarcity, and it doesn't look like I don't have this, I don't have enough money, you do have it. You do have it. You just got to figure out a way and be creative with your decision making abilities and figure it out. We are creators, we're made in the likeness and the image of God. He's the creator himself, and we are able to create just like him, okay? Because we're made like him and in his image. Now, again, we're talking about whole life cash policies, okay, that build cash value over time, right? This is about building your own bank, okay? Somebody said, I agree. We find money for trivial things. We can do this to build wealth for our families and futures. Speak, queen. I love it. Yes. All right. So let's get it started because this is going to be very valuable. Okay. Here's what makes the difference with the life insurance policy. Number one, you own the policy. So you're in full control. You are the beneficiary. Okay. So if something happens, your family will benefit. And the third thing is it builds cash value, meaning as you pay into it, the same way you would a savings account or anything else, as you pay into it, that money doesn't just sit there, it grows up. So that's a little different from a savings account because your savings account ain't going to grow, right? It grows. And there's another thing that's going to separate it completely from everything else. It grows year after year, guaranteed with interest. Okay. And here is what sets it apart from everything else. You can borrow against it whenever you want. You can't borrow against your savings account. You take the money out and then it's done, right? But you can borrow against it whenever you want. And I'm going to give you a real live example so you can really understand this. That means you're not waiting for a bank's approval, okay, for anything. You're not worried about credit scores, high interest rates. You're becoming your own source of financing, okay? So it's okay to get good deals from the banks. Don't get me wrong, or like private investors or whatever. But when you become wealthy, it's all about options. It's options, y'all. I always say this. It's about options. The more options you have, the better you can position yourself, okay? And again, get this. You can even set it up for your children. Again, I talked about your nieces, your nephew, any child, okay? Kids, I'll talk about that in a little bit. I'll explain that in a little bit. But just imagine this. Instead of just leaving your kids money, a savings account that pays pennies and interest, you can hand them a living wealth tool that they can use for the rest of their life. And I'm going to help you to understand how that works, right? And so that's what makes it powerful. It's not just protection, it's a system that grows with you and it grows with them. But the real magic is how it works when you borrow from it. And that's where people's enlightenment usually happens. So let me get into that next because I want to share with you with real numbers how this works. Okay. All right. All right. Cool. All right. I was looking at a comment. All right. Now, let's make this real for you. Say you've been funding your policy for a bit, right? You've been putting money into this policy, right? Because it's a cash policy. So you put cash into it, just like you would, again, an account or any asset. Say you built $25,000 of cash value. Now you spot an opportunity, maybe a small rental, or you that you want to lock up, or just something like you want to avoid a nasty 18% car loan. Like you want to get a car and you want to borrow, you would normally go to the bank and borrow money, but you want to avoid that. So what you would do is you would borrow and get whatever money you need against your policy, right? So here's the move. You can take a policy loan from your cash life insurance for 15,000. Let's say you need 15,000. And let's say your insurer's loan rate is about 5%. Okay. It typically ranges from 4 to 6%, which is good. Basically, I'm saying it's an interest rate of around 5%, depending, right? So that means annually, that would be an interest of $750 if you're borrowing 15,000. Okay. So $750 annually to keep that loan open. Now, here's the magic that most people don't know. You did not, from that $25, you didn't just withdraw the 15,000 and leave yourself with 10. You borrowed against the cash value. So your original 25,000, it stays in place in the policy and it keeps growing in the interest that is growing in, right? So if your policies crediting or plus dividends are, let's say it's around 4 to 6%, that's kind of a common range. Then a 5% example on $25,000 would be 1250. Okay, 1,250. So let's say at 25,000, it's growing 1,250 every single year. Now remember, if it's growing that much, then that amount gets added onto the 25,000, right? Plus whatever you're putting in it. Okay, so this thing can kind of snowball in a good way, if you get what I'm saying. So in a simple year, your policy is growing by 1,250. You got a $15,000 loan. You're paying $750 in loan interest, okay? And you're still in control of the 15,000 you borrowed to use in the real world, whatever that looks like. You want to just pay a car off in cash and pay your own policy back at the 5%, okay? And then you can do your payment plans, right? So the net effect in that simple example, what is that? That is that you kept your compound growth engine running and you financed yourself with flexible terms. Okay. So in plain English, all right, it's the different there's different insurers that handle different things. Okay. And I want you to know these two things that you are going to want to ask, and I'll revisit this so you can make sure. And that is, you have your non-direct recognition. They credit dividends as you've never borrowed, as if you've never borrowed against the policy. Okay. So it's popular with infinite banking folks, kind of. Then you have your direct recognition, and they adjust the dividend based on the borrowed portion. I'm not saying either is bad, they're just different. Okay. So you got to always ask which one your carrier uses. All right. So here is what you would actually owe and when. So again, you control the pace. The minimum you pay interest, $750 yearly if you want to keep the loan open. And then optional, you pay down that principal, whatever you want. It's kind of flexible. Like the one I have, all I would have to do is yearly make sure that I'm meeting the interest payment until I'm ready to pay the loan off. You could pay it off here, there, 1,000 here, 1,000. It's kind of on your terms as long as you are paying that interest yearly. Okay. Now, if you never pay the principal back, the loan just reduces that amount if with your death benefit, because if something ever happens to you later, they just subtract it if you were to never pay the loan back. But most people do pay the loan back and pay it back down, because what it does is it reopens borrowing capacity for the next opportunity. So at some point you do want to pay that $15,000 back, because then you open up more opportunity to rinse and repeat, if that makes sense. Okay. I hope you follow me. If not, you got to go back and listen, because I'm giving real numbers. Now, why can this beat a bank loan? Again, I want you to get this really, really clear. It beats a bank loan because your 25,000 keeps compounding instead of being drained. You did not pull that money out. You borrowed against it at a low percentage rate. As a matter of fact, the low percentage rate is less than what you're making on the interest of the complete loan. So you're not in a negative, in a sense, on the interest portion, right? There's no credit check, no awkward underwriting. Y'all know how underwriting processes can go for a personal loan. You have a flexible repayment. You can set the rhythm of that, not the bank. And it's a privacy loan. It's between you and your insurer. And if you're alternative was, for example, a 12 to 20% car or personal loan, then paying 5% of your own system while your base keeps growing is a complete different game that you're playing. Okay. So you have the two paths. You have the path A, which would be the bank. You borrow $15,000 from a bank at 12%, which is about $1,800 interest per year. And then your savings elsewhere is not compounding on the 15,000 that you remove to make the purchase. It's just that simple. And then you have path B, which is the policy, which is you borrow the 15,000 at 5%. That's $750 of interest a year. Your full $25,000 keeps compounding inside the policy, and you decide how and when to repay, as long as each year that you have the loan open, you just got to make sure you cover the interest. Okay. Now, there are some things I want you to avoid, because I'm going to talk about that because I once did this the wrong way. I took out an aggressive funding, I would say very aggressive. And I had to pay a lot of money into it, and it was just too heavy. So I'm going to explain what I went wrong, because I don't want you to do that. But I want to build back to the bigger picture, which is that I want you to build your own bank the right way. Now, there's some very easy ways to do this. Now, a friendly reminder, I just want to say this is educational, okay? This is not personalized financial advice, okay? I just want you to know that. Hit the like button for me if you have not yet. I want to go a little deeper into this. I just wanted to use an example so you can understand how the numbers work. Now, I want to talk about why the wealthy use this for generational wealth, and I want to get into your kids because this is the hack. Now, this is where it gets more powerful, y'all. So you can set this policy up for yourself. Yes. Okay. I've done that. And then you can also set it up for your kids. And that's one of the biggest differences between how the wealthy think and how everyone else thinks, is that most parents will say, hey, I want to leave something to my kids. That's fine. But if you're trying to become wealthy or a wealthy family or have generational wealth, remember, you need to pass something down that can be passed down from generation to generation, in a sense. And you want to be able to say, hey, I want to give my kids the tools to create wealth while they're still alive. Okay. And this is the exact strategy that you can do this, or one of the things that you can do. Okay. So I want to talk about why setting it up in your kids' names can be really, really beneficial. Number one, and easy. Because I know some of y'all thinking, well, I don't want to get no life. My health ain't together. They're going to be charging me an arm and a leg. Well, guess what? When you put it in your kid's name, there's no medical exam under like 16, I want to say. I don't know. And they don't do any blood work or anything like that. Like, they're not going to do that. If the kid, I don't know if it's 16 to 18. I can't remember because my kids were all younger than 16 when I did it. There's no medical exam required. So policies on children are easy to set up. I mean, easy. Okay. So if you're scared to set it up on yourself, it's easy to set it up on your kids. It will, because it's in your kid's name, it will lower the cost of the insurance because they're so young. Okay. So the premiums are very small compared to adults. And that means more of your money flows straight into building the cash value. Again, I know some of y'all might be like, well, no, I got high blood pressure. I got diabetes. I don't know. I'm overweight, all of this stuff. I got a record, and it may not be as easy unless you're in optimal health. But also your kids have a longer runway. So if you start a policy when your child is young, let's say 5 years old, that cash value has decades to grow before they're ever going to need it. Right. And the thing is, you still own the policy. So the policy I have with my kids, I own them. Okay. I'm in control. I am the policy holder, right? That means that I decide how much to fund it. You decide how much to fund it. You decide if and when you want to borrow against it, and you get to train them in the process. Okay. You can, again, this is a bank. So it's like you borrow the money, you pay it back. You can use it for good things, use it for investments. As a matter of fact, one of the things I used mine for was I had a couple of properties that I bought. I was doing fix and flips, and I bought them in cash. I think one of them was like 195,000, and the other house, it was a quick sale for like 95,000 or whatever. I paid cash for them. But then what I did was, because I didn't want to hold up too much of my cash, I borrowed against my policy to renovate the properties. Okay. So and that's at a small percentage, and was able to pay it back after I sold the properties. Okay. So it made sense. Right. And so, but imagine this scenario: your child turns 18 and wants to start a business, go to college without going in student loan debt or whatever. Instead of going to banks to beg them, they come to the family bank, the cash policy. And the policy is set up years ago, right? So it's been growing. You show them how to take a loan against it responsibly, how to pay back the interest, and how to keep it compounding, okay? How to keep that compounding effect growing, okay? Now, so they're not just borrowing money. What they're doing is they're learning a mindset. They're learning that money is a tool and not a master. Now, fast forward, they 30 years old. They want to buy their first home. The bank is offering them a loan with all these strings attached. All right. But they don't have to beg, right? Why? Because they've got access to the family bank. See, we got to think future minded, right? The only reason why people think this stuff is impossible is because they're not thinking future minded, right? They're not thinking 10, 20, 30 years from now, doing things today that can really impact them in the future. Everybody thinking about right now. What I'm gonna wear right now? What's the next concert I'm going to? Who in town? What next trip we going? Everybody thinking about now. That's okay. I want you to live your life. You should live your life. But you got to think also about the future. You got to think about your children. You got to think about your grandchildren. If you want generational wealth, you can't be thinking about just today, right? And one day, when you hand that policy over, you're not just giving them money, you're giving them a system, y'all, a system that they can continue to fund, continue to borrow from, and even pass down to their kids. Yes, it can be passed down generationally, right? And this is why wealthy families swear by this, because they have control. Number one, they don't necessarily have to go begging banks. They don't need no credit checks. They don't need no waiting on approvals. And I'm not saying that they don't use that as well. They borrow, it's good to borrow against all your assets, but in a smart way. Okay. Now here's where it's really good, y'all. Tax advantages. When this thing is set up right, policy loans are not taxable income. What does that mean? That means when you borrow against this money and you get that money in your hands, you don't have to pay taxes on it. It's not like it's income. It's not like it's taxable income. So if you borrow 50,000 against or whatever, it's not taxed like when you just get money, okay? And then so you got control, you got tax advantages, you got legacy. You're teaching your children how to manage wealth, not just inherit it, okay? And then you got resilience. So families have literally saved businesses during like recessions by borrowing from their policies. As a matter of fact, this is how some businesses stay standing during rough times when, like during COVID, for example. If somebody had a cash policy to save their business, like that becomes the difference between them being able to stand firm versus another business. This is what I always say, y'all. We got to start building our life like you build a house. Our lives are not built for 4 seasons often, right? Sometimes, oh, we got a lot of cash flow. We got this, we doing it. And then one wrong move, one blow, one wind blow, and that house coming down. One job loss, and you're done. You don't have anything, right? You're too reliant on your job. You're too reliant on your paycheck. You might see money coming in and yeah, I'm getting money from this job. And yeah, okay, if that job fires you tomorrow, then what? Like that means you're not built for 4 seasons. When you build a house, it's built for 4 seasons. You got the roof for the rain. You got the air conditioner when it gets hot outside. You got the heat that's coming, that's allowing the culture and the environment to stay warm in the winter time. Like it's built for 4 seasons, but some of your lives are not built for 4 seasons. So one little wind that blows, you just falling off. And we got to stop doing that because it doesn't get our foot in the game. It doesn't lead us to a life of prosperity, and it doesn't set us up for financial freedom for our children. And we darn sure ain't gonna get to no generational wealth if we get taken down by one little blow, one little wind. Okay. So this is another strategy, and this is why wealthy families almost never depend on traditional savings accounts alone. They built their own system from within. They know those accounts barely grow when you sometimes going through certain institutions, but instead they use cash flow policies because it keeps money multiplying while still being liquid and accessible. Another thing I've done for my children as well is I've also open them up charity accounts that's growing in interest. All right. So these charity accounts, they can only use it in charity, but it's still growing at an interest rate every year. It's not an asset in the sense of like they can borrow against it or do anything, but it is a way to give back, and it's good for tax benefits. And so we gotta start strategizing in a good way to give back to society, especially once you start, advancing. I know some of you all want to be philanthropists and want to help, and you just can't do it because you're living paycheck to paycheck. Okay, so let's bring it back home. So whether you're setting up one for yourself, and I'm going to tell you what I did wrong, or setting up one for your kids, the principle is the same: that you stop relying solely on banks and you start becoming your own bank. You keep that compound growth intact, and you're creating a safety net for yourself, because ain't nobody coming to save you. So you better build this for yourself. Stop looking for your job to save you. Stop looking for the banks to save you. Stop looking for the government to save you. They're not coming to save you. You got to start making decisions for your own financial future. Okay. And when you do this, you're teaching the next generation how to think about wealth. When you have to pass down an asset like that, you have to educate your children. And so now they're implementing what you're implementing, and then they can implement it to their children. And that's how you break that curse. Okay. Now, the blessing is also that the earlier you start, the more powerful it becomes. Okay, because you're not just protecting money, you're protecting time, and time is the most valuable wealth multiplier out there. Okay, hit that like button if you have not. Thank you so much. You said this is great information. We need more than one stream of income. That's right, because things happen, right? The storms, they come, y'all. Like, it ain't a matter of if, it's when. And if your house is not built on a solid foundation, if your life is not built on a solid foundation, if you don't have the ability to manage and to handle the storms, the weather, the four seasons of life, then you're not going to be in a good place. Now, here are some mistakes that you can avoid. Let me look at how long before you cash value accrued to where you can borrow against it. That depends on how you have it set up. Your life has to be built on that depends, but I'm going to answer some of that. Just give me a moment, because in some of the mistakes, I'm going to help you to formulate this, and it really depends on how aggressive you are with it. Okay. Now, I'm going to keep this real, because yes, this strategy is very powerful, but it only works if you structure it the right way. That is the key. And I know, because again, I've made some mistakes when I first started, and thank God I was able to, like I say, use mine. But there was one of them that I had to eventually close up, because I didn't want to keep up with how much cash flow was being used. So one of my early policies was built so aggressively. I was paying $25,000 every few months in this policy, and plus like about I don't know if it was 60 to 80,000 at the about in within the year. I had to give a lump sum of like 60 to 80,000 by the end of the year. It was a very aggressive policy, and at that time, it was cool, but then it was like it just ate up too much of my cash flow, and eventually, that's why I let it go, because I didn't want to put that much cash flow in that area. I wish I could have just chopped that in half or something at the time, and I couldn't. It wasn't set up like that, and so and then you don't want to let a policy lapse either, because then you can have penalties, and they'll start borrowing against the policy to pay it off. You know what I mean? So I learned kind of like the hard way. I didn't lose any money in the sense, once I closed that one out, they actually owe me some money. So I got a nice little check on that. All right. But I did learn the hard way. But it's all about how big you start. Okay. It's well, let me say this. It's not about how big you start. It's about how sustainable you start. Let me correct that. I want to make sure that point is clear. How sustainable this policy is. Okay. Because wealth isn't, you don't want to build it on ego. It's built on consistency, right? So you got to have these bite-sized moves. So here are the common mistakes that I see people make, and that some of them I made. And that was number one, overfunding it too fast. Again, $25,000 every 3 months, plus extra $80,000 of a lump sum by the end of the year. I just went a little bit too aggressive. I think I should have cut that in half or something. And yeah, I over leveraged myself, and there were other deals that I really wanted to do in real estate and stuff that got me so tied up. So overfunding too fast is a mistake. Don't go too big out the gate, and then, because then what happens is life can happen, cash flow can get tight, and then you can't keep up. And so if you can't keep up, then the policy will have to eventually close, or again, it'll start borrowing against itself to pay it. So start with a premium that you know you can sustain. Okay. Because the thing is, you can always add another policy, especially if you got it in your kid's name, right? And then number two, not adding a paid up addition, what you call a PUA rider. This is a secret weapon, because it's what can accelerate your cash value early on. Without it, it may take a little longer to grow. It'll be more slow growth. So you can always get a PUA rider, and then you can. I believe that rider is usually flexible. Okay, and then number three, the mistake is ignoring the policy structure. Again, there's a difference between direct recognition and non-direct recognition. Just write that down when it comes to loans, because those are questions that you can ask. Now, you got to know how your company is going to handle this. So it makes a difference in how the dividends are credited when you borrow. Okay. And then the last mistake is not watching the loan to value ratio. So if you borrow too much and you don't manage it, it can actually put the policy at risk. And that's why I always say, treat it like your personal bank, respect the system, and it'll serve you. So you always want to watch out for that debt to income kind of ratio, or loan to value type of ratio. Okay. So the reason why I share my mistake is because I don't want you to think it's some magic trick where you just throw money in it and it always works out perfectly. That's not real life. What is real is that this system works when you understand it, when you structure it right, and when you stay consistent. Okay. I messed up again by going in too heavy, too fast. But once I adjusted and learned how to structure these things the right way, it just completely changed everything. I learned how to structure it for me. I learned how to structure it for my kids. And hex, I'm looking. I need some more kids to get some more policies. But I got it in a very comfortable place where it's growing, it's scaling, the interest rates I could borrow against it, all of that. So just make sure that you don't make those mistakes. Okay. So here's what you want to do. Again, be very, very careful for how it's structured. This isn't, because some people have really bad habits with their money. This is not for you to build something and then when you want, I don't know, when you want to go just spend money just, freely. Oh, I'm gonna borrow against this and all right. Oh, I just lost y'all for a minute. This is not about like, oh, I'm gonna borrow against it and just go spend money like just real stupid. Make sure that if you're borrowing against it, it's in a smart way. You're saving money on some, like if you would go to a bank and have to spend more. Again, it could be for a car. I don't think a car is a really good investment for most people, but I'm just using that as an example because I do know a lot of people, waste money going to banks to buy cars and stuff like that. Or this could be like, again, for another investment. It could be for real estate. It could be for something else. Okay. But it's there. It could be to save a business. It could be there to start a business, right? If you want to start a business and you need a little extra cash flow to get that business started, those are really, really smart ways. I can't tell you what's smart or not. I mean, you'll figure it out. But all I am saying is that it is giving you another option to be able to build financial wealth in your own way and have something else that you can pass down to your kids. I keep saying that all of you need to put your money in assets and stop spending it. Y'all don't have enough money to do stuff like this because it's going towards DoorDash and it's going towards shopping sprees and new shoes and vacations and concerts and movie tickets, and it's going everywhere else. I'm telling you, you gotta focus for a season. I promise you, you'll thank me later. I know I'm sometimes kind of hard on that, but you'll thank me later. All right, so let me just end with this, and I got some links in the description, guys. Make sure you like and hit that subscribe button because I'm going to talk about more things like this. I really want to help you guys to become financially savvy. But the reality is most people will watch stuff like this and they nod their head. Yeah, that's powerful. Oh man, yeah, I need to focus. Okay, I'm behind schedule. I need to, and then they go right back to living at the mercy of banks, debt, fear, all of that. Okay. If you watched it this far, I know it's because deep down inside, you don't want to feel out of control with your money, or you don't want to just be hoping for financial future. You know that there's aggressive things that you have to put in place for your life, and you don't want to pass this stress down to your kids and your grandkids and stuff like that. I know you want a strategy, you want something better. Okay. And so I always say, hey, you don't have to figure that out alone. I'll be taking still a few more spots for the 90-day health and wealth challenge. What we try to do, just so you can understand, the link is in the description. We want you to build your own wealth system, so you stop relying on, banks and other things, and start controlling your future a little bit more. You're not in the driver's seat if you don't have these things in place. If you don't have a will in place, there's just so much you got to clean up, y'all. It's so much to do, but we do it one thing at a time, right? One step at a time, okay? And to organize your life. Hey, if you don't start now, when are you gonna start? This may seem overwhelming to some of you, but if you don't start now, when you gonna do this? You're gonna wake up and be regretful. You could have had so much money being made, so much organization, so much peace of mind, so much joy in your spirit, able to pass down strategies and wealth to your children or your grandkids. Come on, we got to put this stuff in place. You got to protect yourself from debt traps, from bad money habits, from scams that drain your wealth. You got to rewire your mind so that fear and procrastination and self-sabotage can stop ruining your financial decisions. It is really, really time. And so the link is in the description. We want you to optimize your health, your habits, and your money, because true prosperity is about wholeness, not just, your bank account. It's about wholeness. And it's not a theory. It's about building a plan that works in real life for you, your family, and your future. By the way, do not believe anything in the comments. That's a lot of people are taking my picture and putting it in the comments. It's not me. Asking for you to call them and stuff like that. It's not me. Watch out for the scams. Okay. Watch out for the scams. All right. So go to the link that's in the description. All right. Go to the link that's in the description. Let me see if there's a couple of questions or anything. Thanks for the info, and most importantly, your time. Absolutely. That's what I'm here for. And I'll be back on, drop in the comments some things that you want to learn about. I do read them. That's why I'm here sharing this, because this was actually something that somebody asked, could I talk a little bit more about? All right. And so that's why I'm here doing it and giving you guys the game plan and things that you guys can do to start getting back in control of your life and your wealth. Somebody said, what's good? Tapping in. Okay. Hey. All right. I'm just looking to make sure I don't have any questions I need to address. All right. So yeah, visit the link in the links in the description, and put in a comment, what are some things that you really want me to talk about? And if this is something that you're interested in, I think everybody should have some kind of cash value policy to borrow against, because at the end of the day, why do people want to just use all of their money when they can leverage it? I talked about that before. Look at some of my videos. I talked about learning how to leverage your money, how to leverage it, and how to allow your money to make money and leverage it. You can borrow against it to do other things, right? But we got to get there. Okay. It's one day at a time, y'all. One day at a time, right? It'll come a time that they're allowing you to borrow against your cryptocurrency and stuff too. So again, when you have assets, you can leverage them, right? You can leverage them. All right. Somebody said, thank you sincerely. You are sincerely welcome. All right. Last thing I want to say is this, and this is very important. Very, very important. Just understand that I keep saying this, your wealth should be working for you. That's what I want you to learn. Okay. Your wealth and your money should be multiplying. And your future should feel secure because God did not design you to live stuck. He did not. What he designed you for is to live free, free to prosper, free to build, free to leave a legacy. So keep learning, keep growing, because whom the Son sets free is free indeed. I'll see you guys next time.